What's up, party animals? My name is Kezi, and today I wanted to talk about popufurs and a weird experience I had at a local event. So to start off, let's start with the story. So I was at a local event, and I won't specify where or who it was, but I was approached by somebody and they wanted to talk, and that's all fine. I love talking to people who recognize me or even don't and just want to say hi. And this person, extremely friendly, as we were talking, they mentioned something that really kind of stuck with me, and it was very weird. They said, "I only talk to popufurs." And that was odd. Because, of course, I joke all the time that I'm a popufur, and at times it kind of feels like it. I definitely spend a lot of times when I'm in my fursuit talking to people who recognize me from my content. And that's amazing. I love the feeling, but it's a joke. I think that popufur comes with a lot of weird connotations, and so I don't actually think, oh, I'm a popufur, I'm better than everybody. It's like not that, and it was weird for someone else to unironically say that, I'm only talking to you because you're a popufur, because you have clout, because you have, fans or whatever it was that they saw as popufur. That was a really kind of uncomfortable and eye-opening experience. Because I don't have a ton of subscribers. I have a lot, and I'm very happy to see that number go up. I'm almost gonna hit 9K, and it's just heck yeah, dude, that's awesome. But it's not, I'm not, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say I'm a popufur, and I don't want to ever really say that I'm a popufur, because it's different for every furry, right? If you're, sure, I'm YouTube, I'm a public figure on YouTube, but there are other furries who are much more well-known that don't do that. Can artists be popufurs? If their artwork gets around and gets tons of free blogs and whatever, is that a popufur thing, or are they just artists? It feels like popufur is only for fursuiters and only for YouTubers or TikTok. I think TikTok is a big one for that as well, but it's that I'm here, hello kind of popularity. I feel like artists and people who don't express themselves personally don't wind up being popufurs. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what it actually means to be a popufur, what it means to be a fursuiter, and what we actually, what we actually want to do about that. What does that mean in the fandom? And the first thing I want to say is conventions. I think one of the biggest things that can differentiate you as a popufur is actually going out and being within the community. I feel like a lot of people, if they're not outgoing, if they're not able to be seen in any capacity, then it's very difficult to label someone as a popufur. If they just kind of draw their art and never talk to anybody, well, then is that a popufur? Probably not. But if they're going to events, if they're hosting panels, if they're, running their art booths and stuff like that, and they're talking and getting to know people, I think that is more of what that means. And I think that that's kind of one of the things that you can kind of start to see why popufur has this ugly connotation through conventions. If someone wants to talk to me, most of the time they probably are able to, but other times they might not be able to. If someone is like, oh my God, I need to talk to Kezi, and, I'm busy, let's say I'm talking to someone else, or I'm doing a DJ set, or I'm helping out with the convention and I'm not able to talk, I think that a lot of people, they use the popufur term negatively as like, well, I'm not good enough to talk to these people, and so they suck. The popufurs suck. And I think that could be, that's not the truth at all. I think, as anybody who talks to a lot of people, you're going to have to balance who you can talk to. You can't talk to everybody all at once. I am one individual. It is not possible. And so when you wind up in these situations where, I could be surrounded by 3 or 4 or 5 other fursuiters and we're all having a good time and laughing and chit-chatting. And, you as an outlier, for example, looks at that and you're like, well, why am I not in Kezi's clique? Well, I don't know. You're not. And it's sure, maybe it's that you don't have a fursuit. Maybe you don't make enough YouTube videos. Maybe you don't do this, that, or the other thing. But I think that, it's not about you. And that's kind of a harsh thing to say, is that it's not about you as an individual. It's about what you do. Are you actually outgoing? Are you doing stuff? There are people who I know that have become very much popufur status without a fursuit, without, making TikToks or doing that thing. They just talk to people and are really friendly. And I think that, if you're thinking of things as a negative way, then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot and you don't end up progressing in the fandom. And on the flip side, like the person at the event I was at was like, they said, well, I only talk to popufurs. That's cold. That sure, just because you can talk to popufurs doesn't mean you're any better than anybody else. If all you talk to is popufurs, even if you don't mention it, which was crazy that the dude did in general, but even if you don't mention it, people will pick up on that you're only really interested in people because of what they have and not who they are. If you're going to be a popufur, if that's your goal is to chase clout and be famous, well, okay, fine. 1, don't tell anybody. That's weird. But 2, talk to everybody. Because it's about being genuine. It's about caring about the people who talk to you. It's about seeing, okay, this person likes me, or this person, or I like this person. I've talked to numerous people without a fursuit. Oftentimes they'll have something that is just like a good conversation starter, and a fursuit definitely helps with that. But really anything that is just like, hey, look at me, can really help with that. And, again, it works the other way too. Sure, I'm in fursuit, but just because you're not doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. And so it kind of hurt being called a popufur, because I don't do any of the popufur things that people say as such a negative thing. Because I definitely try my hardest to be very approachable at conventions. Sure, I can get a little startled because when I'm at an event, I forget that I make stuff on the internet. Like right here, I'm just alone in a room yelling. And it's weird to think that thousands of people might see this video. And yeah, so this isn't like I'm... So there's definitely a disconnect in my head about it. And so when I walk around, I don't think, oh, I'm Kezi Coyote. I'm the big popufur. I'm just like, I'm here to have fun. Let's see what happens. And that's it. And so when you focus your energy on popufur, not popufur, I want to be, or I want to talk to, or whatever, you end up lessening your experience overall, and typically you wind up being unpleasant to be around. I was probably the most recognizable person at that event, just because I was one of the only people who actually make content like a popufur or whatever. And so I was definitely this dude's hyper-focus. And that kind of wound up being weird because there's a ton of interesting people there. And so just because I have the most clout in the room does not mean I am the most interesting person in the room. There were a ton of people worth talking to, worth having discussions with, and worth learning about, not because of their fursuit or their clout or whatever, but because of who they are and how they behave. And so I think that that's a huge thing just in general with the fandom. is this kind of hyperfixation on popufurs. I mean, sure, I hadn't seen it for a while, and I have not seen it in fursuit yet. This is a really wild awakening to happen in real life at an event, was to be called a popufur, and it was kind of rude to say that that was the only reason they wanted to talk to me. You know, I have a million interesting things. I am a musician. I am a fursuiter. I am a YouTuber. You know, these are hobbies of mine that I would love to talk about. But just because I'm a popufur is not a topic. I mean, it is. I just talked for, 13 minutes about it. But like, it's not something we can have a deep discussion about, unless that's, of course, your goal, is like, let's talk about what being a popufur means. It's just not great. And so don't do that. Go make friends. Go talk to people you think has a cool shirt on, or, even if they do have a cute fursuit, sure, go talk to them, but don't be about one thing. Focus on who they are and not what they are. And that's all I wanted to say. Just a video about popufurs and my weird experience at an event. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. It's the end of the video. Please go check out my Patreon. I actually did an open decks the other night, and the video is up on my Patreon of the mix that I did. It's not very good, but it's actually a secret face reveal. So if you're curious or just want to listen to a lot of my DJ sets, go check it out. $2 a month. Bye-bye.